Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Just want to remind everybody to certainly check out the show notes on each episode. I have left my Linktree link down below, which has all the things I am currently involved with, things I'm passionate about, hobbies I have. If you're interested in any of those, certainly click the links, check them out, reach out if you want more information on any of that. Also, don't forget to leave a rating on the podcast. It's actually quite helpful for discoverability. I'm learning all this as I go, so check out the links in the bio, leave a review, all of this if you want to. Let's get into the podcast. Welcome back to Just BS Podcast. Today we have Chris Atwell on the show. Chris, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, Brandon.
Yeah. So peak performance leadership expert, founder, coach, speaker, and you help manufacturing owners to lead with confidence and build high-performing teams. I always steal people's LinkedIn bios because I think it best represents exactly what you want to get across mostly. So does that cover a little bit of everything that you want to get across today?
Yeah, it certainly does. Other than, to be specific, it's manufacturers rep agency owners. So a lot of words in there. Those who are in that industry know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm not surprised when others are like, well, what was that? What do you mean? And manufacturers rep agency owners are, they're entrepreneurs to make a point. So
yeah. So can you give me your kind of career trajectory in under 2 minutes? Can you tell me everything you've done in under 2?
Yeah, sure. All right. Paperboy, ice cream salesman, pot washer, infantryman, kitchen manager, flight attendant.
Nice.
Followed by club promoter, and
Nice.
then rapper, DJ, producer, sales, inside sales guy, outside sales guy, technical sales guy, sales manager, sales director, and now leadership coach.
Holy shit. That's a
I
lot
did
of
that
experience.
under 30 seconds, I'm pretty sure. So
I think you did too. Well, there's a lot in there. I don't know if I know about some of the early stuff, but oh man, we're going to get into a lot of that. Okay. Interesting. Wow. You made some real leaps there throughout your career.
Yeah.
I guess leaps of faith, and you said you had opportunities that you probably grabbed.
Yeah, I mean, as a young teenager, I was always inclined to work. So I started working when I was 12, 13 years old.
Wow.
Delivering newspapers. Loved the fact that I was making my own cash, had responsibility. And in those days, a paper boy, all right, in the early 90s, not only did I deliver papers, I also had to canvas and go get new clients and collect the money. So, at 13, that was a big responsibility. I don't think they do that anymore. Everything's online, right? But so that was cool. And I was never really certain about what I wanted to do when I grew up. The classic question, right? What do you want to do when you grow up? And for me, I knew for the longest time that I wanted to tap into my creative side. And I mentioned rapper, DJ, producer. When I went to business school and I had to write my business plan as one of the final assignments, I wrote a plan to launch a record label. And I was in my early 20s when that went live. So I really explored that side of the business world, the music business, while building another career. And it wasn't until, my 30s when I realized, hey, you know what? This sales leadership thing is for me. I love this stuff. And I worked my way up the corporate ladder with different organizations in the logistics, wholesale distribution, and manufacturing spaces, all while having my music business on the side and flexing my entrepreneurial skills. And finally, I realized I was meant to be a sales leader, but as an entrepreneur. And that's where now I run my own business. I coach people for a living. And not only that, I get to help people at a really deep level. Help them save tremendous amount of time on where they're spending their time in their day to day, and make changes not only in professional life but in their personal lives as well. And I absolutely love it.
Do you think you could have made that leap if you didn't explore that entrepreneurial side while you had your net?
Probably not. Right. I think the entrepreneurial side, that side hustle that I had my whole life, played a big part in me making the leap into being an entrepreneur full time. It's, I made the jump in my early 40s. So um, I was really, I don't want to, I was really comfortable in the
Yeah.
corporate world, right? So I had what I call the golden handcuffs, right? The great salary, the benefits, the company car, the expense account, the high performing sales team, all the things. But and had I not had that entrepreneurial experience on the side, which I had a lot of great success with, I would never have made the leap. And even then, making the leap was tough. It was a
Yeah.
big decision.
Well, because I mean, people say if you have like a plan B, right, it'll never work. And I don't live in that headspace because like not everybody's life can work that way. Like once you get over like into, well, you can have major responsibility in 20s. If you have major responsibility, it could be not just your decision, right? If you have a family or whatever that looks like, you have people that are relying on you, like plan B may need to be the plan until you figure out what good looks like long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, I told myself that corporate life was my plan A, and that the side hustle, the music business was like a hobby. I was an entrepreneurial hobbyist.
Yep.
And there was there were a couple times during that music journey over a 20-year period where some big, exciting, juicy things happened. I secured a licensing deal with Coca-Cola and Sprite. My music is in a LeBron James Sprite commercial,
Wow.
right? Played internationally during the playoffs for every sport imaginable. And that came with some really lucrative money, at which point I really thought about making the leap, right? But my soul, so to speak, was just I wanted to make the leap, but in something else. I just didn't know what it was at the time. Yeah.
Well, huge props for holding out because I'm not sure a lot of people would know not to make the leap, right? Like you must have very clear values and be aligned with yourself because I think that's pretty like there's lots of times we're climbing the ladder, but it's against the wrong wall. And we don't know that until you're at the top going, oh shit, like this isn't fun anymore. So yeah, I mean, wow, it's a journey. What was the hardest part about the music business?
Quite honestly, it was the lifestyle.
Mm.
So the music business is wrapped up in a lot of entertainment, after hours entertainment, alcohol, drugs.
Yep.
And there's this mindset that's very common where you got to be able to party hard, right? And I was into that for a long time. But after a while, after several years, it hit me that that's not for me anymore. It was getting harder. It wasn't aligned with my values. And I was struggling, and it was impacting my family as well, right? So that was the hardest part, that the dark side of that industry.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Well, I think maybe even the movie industries might be along this similar lines.
Yeah.
That goes right into my first question. And it's really around, you shared about overcoming addiction, burnout, major health scare, it led launching Mindset Conquest. Was the family moment the specific moment where you said, I just can't keep living like this?
Well, quite honestly, the moment where I realized I can't be living like that, it came to, I mean, I told myself that many times over a, 5-10 year period. There were times where my wife would walk in on me in the studio and be like, "Hey, enough's enough. Like, what are you doing? Right? It's 5 a.m. You're still blasting music. You're still drinking, right?" And then for days after, I'd feel terrible, shame, guilt, all those things. So, but that was never enough. And and all while building a corporate career. So, you know, the corporate career, it was like living two lives,
Wow, that's
right?
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And during COVID, the famous word COVID, you know, I built a garage gym, and I was keeping myself occupied multiple hours a day, training really hard in the gym, and that became another addiction for me, was over exercising. And I thought it was a healthy outlet,
Mm.
and I wasn't fully aware that I was overtraining, all while still having that nighttime lifestyle that had carried through, that had carried with me from the music business. And I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't. I pushed myself too hard, and I ended up in the hospital with near kidney failure.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, I had what's called rhabdomyolysis, and
Mm.
it's funny. I was on another podcast recently, and the host of that podcast, he's an ultra marathon runner, and he's one of the only guys that I've ever talked to that knew what that was, because it's often something that happens to elite athletes that push themselves way too hard. But for me, it was a combination of pushing my body hard and being dehydrated, and my lifestyle. So I ended up in the hospital for about 5 days, middle of COVID. There's no visitors. I'm by
Yeah.
myself. Everyone who's coming in are nurses and doctors. They're in full hazmat. You know, it was really, really disturbing. And I was scared. I was frightened. I was terrified. I didn't know what was happening. We were trying to avoid kidney failure, and I had a lot of time to think. And when I got out of there, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to change, because the way I was living wasn't sustainable. So that's when the real awakening happened. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that had to be. Yeah, I mean, you had a lot of alone time with your thoughts, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So I want to get into some of the sales stuff.
Sure.
You say most sales teams fail at CRM adoption, not because of
Mhm.
laziness, but because they've been sold the wrong story. What's the biggest myth about CRMs you're working to undo?
Biggest myth about CRM is that a lot of salespeople believe that it's a big brother tool, that it's there to monitor them, that it's there to make sure that they're doing their job. And
Mm.
where that myth comes from, that's a story that they're telling themselves. Nobody's ever actually said that, right? And I'm looking to undo that, because in today's world, I mean, there's so much value in utilizing data to make strategic decisions. And the only way that you're going to be able to use data for strategic decisions is if you're collecting it in a real powerful way. So what I do is I help owners of businesses understand the roadblocks that are getting in the way of their team members using the systems in the first place. Communicate clearly the why. Why is this so important to their team members? And part of that is that for the individual salespeople is that it can help them spend their time in the right places. If you've got an opportunity pipeline, okay, and you're tracking this pipeline, you can go and visit opportunities that are going to have the highest impact, the biggest impact on your bottom line, your return on investment. But a lot of salespeople get caught up in what I call the milk run, right? They get
Mm.
comfortable and they just do the same old activities over and over. So helping them understand how they can use that to their benefit, um, and then I give them tools to hold people accountable in a healthy way without friction, and share the risk, share the responsibility, and go from there.
Do you find, because it's interesting you say this, because I never had a problem with CRMs. I just am not a salesperson by nature.
Right.
So finding KPIs that I'm happy with in the sales arena was a path I went down probably a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you find distrust in ownership when they're thinking of sales. It's almost like I hear a lot, it's like a necessary evil, right? You have to have salespeople. You have to go out there. But how do I hold them accountable? Because they're never in the office. They're out doing their own thing. They're always on the road. And what are the KPIs? Like what KPIs do you love that you implement for owners to say, hey, your sales team's doing good, or they're not? There's some areas of concern.
Yeah. So first of all, you have to have a clear revenue target in mind, right? For each one of your salespeople. It can't just be
that.
an overall number. It's like, hey, Brandon, your target this year is $1 million in your territory. Okay. And you got to give them an understanding of where that number came from, right? So that it's clear to them. It's not just a shot in the dark.
Sure.
So that's a great KPI to measure against. This, revenue versus target. The second KPI is what I call the Precision Pipeline Index. Okay. So this is a sales velocity KPI. So where you know that your target is $1 million. Okay. But how much new business do you need to bring on in order for you to hit your $1 million target? Right. Because of that million, a portion of this is going to be repeat business.
Sure.
Right. A lot of business is going to repeat itself, but there's this net new incremental number that you need to identify. So that's a KPI that you want to wrap your head around, is what's the number that you need to achieve non-repeat to hit that million? And then how many opportunities do you need to have in your pipeline to make sure that you're going to win? Right. And that's what the Precision Pipeline Index evaluates. It's you look at your revenue target, you divide that by your close ratio. And this is why CRMs are important because you can tell of all the opportunities I have in my pipeline, what percentage am I actually winning, right? And then from there, what's my average opportunity size? Then you divide that number out. So revenue target divided by close ratio divided by average opportunity size, and you'll get a number. You'll get a number that's going to say 300 or 30, whatever it is. So if your target's $1 million, your average opportunity size is 100,000, and your close ratio is 30%, you need to have 30 opportunities in your pipeline to hit your revenue target. So that's a KPI. And part of the Precision Pipeline Index is tracking that, right?
Yeah, so spending a lot of time going after those new 30 because they're going to be the hard ones.
Yeah. While protecting the existing business. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a lot of relationship building, but a lot of your time could be spending really grooming new customers and the reach back, the call back, the quotes, making sure that you're in the ballpark, all that stuff.
Exactly. Right.
It's interesting. Yeah, I struggled with the sales arena for quite a long time until I really, really dove into what that world needs to look like. So how do you incentivize? What's your philosophy on incentivizing sales teams?
Well, I'm a big believer in changing incentive programs on a regular basis to spice things up.
Okay.
Right. So every couple of years, as a bare minimum, you should change your incentive program. Okay. You'll notice that that's a strategy that's used in a lot of organizations, right? Sometimes it may seem for the worse, sometimes for the better. But for me, one of the best, when I was in sales role, one of the best incentives that I received was what was called return on capital earned. So it was a privately run company. And this isn't always possible, obviously, because, depending if you own the company, if it's employee shared business, employee owned, or if it's public. But what was really cool with the ROSI, which was return on capital earned, was that I made a base salary. Okay. And my contributions to the business were recognized in terms of a percentage of overall performance as a company. Right. So if your return on capital earned was really high, or if you hit that target, I got a percentage of my total salary as a bonus at the end of the year. And it was accelerated. The more revenue the company brought in, the more earnings, the more money I made. So it wasn't strictly to my particular territory. At the time, it was company performance. And for me, that made me feel like we were all working as a team, right? That's not always possible, and I understand that. So the element of bonusing somebody out with a scaled approach, because traditionally a lot of sales organizations, they're still all about commissions, right? And sure, you can approach that. But to me, where I've seen a lot of success is give somebody a base salary and then incentivize them based on territory performance, right? Make sure that the targets are clear, have some accelerators in place, right? So that if you overachieve, that you can really make some really good incentives, but also have a company element associated with it as well.
Yeah, I think that's my big hang up. We got rid of the whole commission structure a couple of years ago now. And really because I wanted a collaboration from all departments. And I kept having to have a conversation with the sales team about like, is it where the PO comes from or is it where the job site's at? And that drove me crazy. Right. So that was a main driver of me just getting fed up with that. Yeah. And so we're very collaborative approach. It's actually an entire company bonus incentive structure, which now I'm actually redoing this year with some help to really drive company KPIs that we all can get along. But as soon as we got rid of all that, it was amazing how it's not just bringing deals in, it's the right deals. It's what projects really suit us and what we're good at versus just trying to fill a pipeline. It just completely changed.
Yeah, you make a great point there because, we could generalize and just say, hey, revenue incentive, but it's really important to include elements of certain initiatives that you want your team members to focus on. Because what happens is people get comfortable, right? And you get the guys who coast, and you get the women who just ride the wave, right? So you want to make sure that they're being incentivized based on projects and initiatives that are really aligned with your mission and your vision over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So super important. Another element that I believe organizations should incentivize on is behaviors.
Yep.
So, you've got values and a mission and vision in place. You should. Every company should, right? And what you want to do, if you want to build a culture that aligns with those values and that mission and vision. So by having a process in place that allows you to capture and has your team demonstrate those behaviors, that they're demonstrating behaviors that align with those values. And you can do that through some sort of performance review on a regular basis. You should incentivize them on that piece too, right? So if they're really living into those values, they should get something because that's the behavior that you want to acknowledge, right? And if they're not, they don't get anything. In fact, it's gonna penalize them, right?
Yeah, correct.
So something to consider as well.
Yeah, no, culture piece is the 6th block, I think, of our incentive plan. And I think it's going to be a small group of people that's going to be voted on by the company of who lived the values for the quarter, right? So if you get, whatever votes. So, and that'll be a small pool that will get a small pool of money, but it won't be broken up by lots of people. So it's going to be a larger chunk, right? I'm an absolute culture monster. So I'm right there with you. I think that people don't pay enough attention to that because it'll change your life for sure.
Absolutely.
Time management is dead. So you've declared that time management is a myth. What's your go-to framework for helping leaders shift from managing hours to managing energy, and what changes when they make that leap? Yeah. I love this because I do not manage time. I just don't care about it at all.
Yeah. And most people, they start their day with intention. You got your to-do list, you've got your calendar, and then you get pulled in 12 different directions. And then that one thing that you wanted to tackle today gets pushed aside, right? So it's not about managing time. It's about managing your priorities. Okay. So as long as you're clear on what priorities you need to be doing, what activities are critical, then you can manage accordingly. So go-to framework for me is I'll do a rocks, pebbles, and sand exercise. You familiar with the rocks, pebbles, and sand
I'm not.
Theory? All right. So there was this university professor who had his students all around, and he had a jar. Okay. And in that jar, he took some rocks and he put rocks into the jar. And he said, these rocks, they represent all of the most critical, most important activities that you do in your day-to-day, okay? The ones that are really going to move the needle, and in most cases require your specific skill set, all right? Push those in the jar. Jar starts to fill up. And he grabs a handful of pebbles, and he puts the pebbles in the jar, and he says, these pebbles are your secondary priorities, okay? These are the ones that are important, but maybe they don't require your specific skill set. Maybe they can be delegated. Perhaps they can wait till later. And there's, they're important, but they're not critical, right? And he puts those in there. And then he grabs a handful of sand and he starts pouring sand into the jar over the rocks and the pebbles. And he says, the sand, this represents your time wasters. These are the disruptive phone calls, the emails,
doom scrolling,
the doom scrolling, watching Netflix, all those things, right?
Yeah.
The things that you do to procrastinate, and he puts that in the jar. All right. And he says, imagine if you put those in backwards, right? If you did all the sand first and then put pebbles, how many rocks are you going to be able to fit in, right? Not so many. So it's all about the order. You put the rocks, the big rocks in first, then the pebbles, and then the sand, and you're going to be able to accomplish a lot more of the critical things, right? So I walk people through a rocks, pebbles, and sand exercise where we clearly identify what are your big rocks, what's your pebbles, what's the sand that you're doing every day. And then we'll take that and we'll dissect it into two categories, essential versus non-essential, okay? Essential meaning it absolutely requires your skill set, okay? And it's critical to the business, right? So you put that in that column. And then non-essential, it could be anything below that. It's important, but it doesn't require your skill set, et cetera. So most of the time, all of your pebbles and your sand end up in non-essential, and the big rocks, even one or two big rocks, end up in the non-essential. Okay. So then all right, essential list starts to get smaller. Right. Then we do an energy audit.
Okay.
I get you to highlight which activities out of the non-essential and essential are considered energy generating to you. Which ones light you up? Which ones make you feel good? Which ones you love doing that pump you up, right? Highlight those green. Which ones are non-essential? Which ones are energy draining?
Yeah.
Okay. And then highlight those in yellow or in black or in red. Not in black. You won't see them if they're in black. Right? So yellow or red. And then take a look at that and say, holy smokes, of all of the energy draining ones, how can I treat those differently so that I'm focused on essential activities that are energy generating all the time? Because as a leader in a business, if you're doing the things that light you up, that are essential, right? That's gonna bring energy into the mix. That's gonna have a cascading effect, right? So we try to focus as much of your time on those things, 80% of your time, right? And then all of the things that were energy generating, are energy draining. Sometimes you got to do them. We pinpoint those, all right? But for the most part, you try to find somebody to do those things whom that activity is energy generating to.
Sure.
All right? So you kind of hand it off, you replace it. And when you do those activities, the rocks, pebbles, and sand, non-essential versus essential, and then categorize energy generating versus energy draining, you can get a really clear picture of where you should be spending your time all day, right? To get the most done and have the biggest impact. And that's how you save time.
How tough is that for owners? This is very on versus in, right? You're just taking that concept and breaking it down into something of like, hey, stop doing this, start doing this. This will make your life happier.
Yeah. You know what? I just did a survey recently. Okay. I got 12 responses from some past clients, owners of multi-million-dollar organizations. Okay. And on average, they're saving from before they worked with me, before they did this exercise to now, they've created 7+ hours of time where they're working on their business versus reactively on their business. So they've opened up 7 hours on average of their week to do the things that really matter by just jigging things around and having visibility on these things.
Yeah, I can imagine that happens a lot because I feel I'm not a founder, but I feel founders know how to do everything. And when do you know to shed? When do you trust to shed? Right? That's the hurdle. Or when are you big enough to shed to other people? And I think that's always like that. Or you just want to hold a lot more than you need to, and so you're helping them through that process and really
Yeah.
putting it in their face. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, yeah, and one of the easiest, one of the really eye-opening things when it comes to delegation for founders, because you're right, they want to do everything. They get caught up in everything. They get their fingers in every jar, right? Um, Make the leap and get yourself an assistant. First step, okay? Get yourself an assistant who's going to manage your inbox, who's going to manage your calendar, who's going to help hold you accountable to doing the critical things, and who can take on a lot of those side projects and administrative tasks that maybe you've been doing. And you can find great ones who, and honestly, my assistant is the most important individual in my company. She's awesome. Okay. But what happens is when founders get an assistant and they work with a quality one for 2, 3, 4 months, they realize, oh my God, delegation is a good thing. Okay. And they're freeing up time. They're less stressed. They're working on things that generate their energy, and they become more confident in making those leaps that we're talking about, right? To really work on the business strategically.
Yeah, that's a good exercise. I can see how that. See, I've had the superpower to not know how to do most of what we do. Like I can't do metal fab. I'm not mechanically. I'm actually working in the shop all this week and then all through the summer actually. So I'm skipping week on, week off, week on, week off, just to one, I have a really good brain for like finding efficiency, thinking differently, process improvement, things like that. One, getting some street cred because it's going to be like 100 degrees out and I'll be out there sweating with everyone else. And then I'm doing some marketing videos of what I learn each day.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because what's fascinating is like when you don't, I know my swim lane. I know where I'm strong and I know where I'm weak. So I don't run into this problem of like, give me everything, right? Because I know like I can't, like if it's a technical meeting, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, sit in the corner and just listen and learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of founders who build from nothing, build from one, everything. And I didn't come in with that. And I think it's been an actual huge help in the sense of time management and allowing me time to get weird with crazy solutions or think outside the box or have the bandwidth just to sit with my thoughts sometimes and go, man, that's really annoying me. How can I solve this? Right. And then just going down some tangent where I feel like if you don't have that space, maybe you wouldn't have that perspective.
Yeah. Founders don't have that luxury most of the time. Right.
Agreed.
It was that reminds me of when I was brought on to a manufacturer years ago to develop the technical sales division. They were looking for somebody to bring products to market on the specification side of construction projects, and they had never had anybody do that. I came in from a wholesale distribution company, and I had never done that.
Yeah.
But they knew that I had the aptitude. I believed in myself. I put together a plan, and just like you, because I was so focused on that one swim lane, yeah, it was a little more clear to me of where I should be spending my time.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't build the entire company. I just built one lane. Right. So,
yeah. No, exactly the same. I'm not sure I could ever be a founder of anything. I just don't think I have the entrepreneurial risk factor in me, but I know that I'm like a master manager. Like I know how to see lots of parts and like get them all to work together. And so part of that too, I think people struggle with like wanting to do and be good at everything. And I'm not there, I'm just going to find this niche. Like perfect example, when you said about like energy drainers and energy boosters, like I started this because going to social functions is a huge energy drain for me. I hate them. I'll be in the corner, awkward on my phone, not talking to anyone because I hate all of that stuff. I'll never be on a golf course. You'll never catch me in any of that stuff. But I did this because I knew my voice had to stay active in social. And so this was my weird solution to keeping a social platform while still having the comforts of my favorite room in my house. So yeah, I think people need to get, don't be afraid to get weird with a solution with something you may not like, or, you don't actually have energy for.
Well, and founders and leaders in general, they're problem solvers, right?
Yes.
We're problem solvers, but the thing is that we don't have to solve all the problems ourselves, right? That's where empowering comes in.
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
And a lot of leaders get trapped in like this never-ending cycle where there's a problem and they become the go-to for the problem. So team members go to them, owner, founder says, okay, this is how you solve the problem. I've been down this road before. Boom, go do that. And what's happening is, although the intention is that the problem gets solved quickly,
yes,
because you know how, you simply become the person
path of least resistance. Yeah, no doubt. 100%. Happens all the time.
Exactly. So, one of the things that a lot of leaders can learn to do is to not give the answers right away and allow people to think for themselves and challenge them to come up with solutions to the problems and allow them to make mistakes so that they can figure it out on their own. And oftentimes what happens is they come up with a solution, and sometimes it's even better than the one that you had originally.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that's really, really good. Yeah. And once again, not knowing how to solve those things, it's really just bringing the right group of people together, which is easy because most of the time will be like, I have no idea how to solve this. So let's go find, you're all very smart. So let's go find, the answer somewhere. That's really good. All right. Quick timeout from the BS to talk about someone who actually helped me sort mine out. BS. I don't know if I can sort all of that out since it's part of my name. If your business is facing a real change and clarity feels like trying to read a map in the dark, you need to speak to my friend, Scott Hackman, and his team at SHV Partners. Scott doesn't just consult, he shows up, he asks bold questions, and somehow makes your whole team feel 2 inches taller just by being in the room. Scott's a pretty tall person, just a heads up. There's no buzzwords, no fluffy strategy decks, just real conversation, uncomfortable truths, and progress that actually sticks. So some consultants come in, it's all about proving your worth, circle backs, buzzwords, a lot of fluff, no real action. That's not what Scott does, and that's not what Scott's team does, which is amazing. So I've worked with him. He's the real deal. So hit up shvpartners.com or find Scott Hackman on LinkedIn. The links are also in the show notes below. But once again, what do I know? I'm just a gamer. Mindset Conquest is a powerful name. What does Conquest mean to you in the context of leadership, and what does it not mean?
Yeah. So Conquest to me means just keep driving forward.
Okay.
Keep driving forward. Growth is a never-ending staircase, a spiral staircase that's just constantly going
There's no
up.
finish line.
There's no finish line, right? But you need to have the mindset that you're going to conquer the staircase, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be times when you've been climbing this spiral staircase forever, and then you look down and you're like, holy smokes, I haven't even made any progress here, right? But when you look up, you need to conquer regardless. So just keep climbing. It's a never-ending journey.
Yeah. So continuous improvement for you is the conquest to want to continue.
Exactly.
Okay. It's brilliant. Love it. What would you say to the version of yourself right before the breakdown? And how do you help leaders recognize that they may already be close to their own?
I would say, I love you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to make those changes. What a gift that was.
Yeah.
Right. And I would tell leaders to don't dwell in guilt or shame or regret. Use those moments as true learning opportunities so that you can shine your light in a better way moving forward.
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah. Major gratitude there. I think it's, like whenever you make, and we all say as leadership whatevers, that like get out there and make mistakes, fail, fall, blah, like we get it. It's the motto. But when you're in that and you just made a mistake and you are a leader and everyone's like, it still sucks and it's still dark and there's still imposter. I mean, I had imposter syndrome for probably 2 years when I came over to this side of the river. And it was just like, it's a long journey. And you can't really, until you look back on it, you're like, it was good. I was trudging through the mud, but man, it's a hard conversation.
It is. And I think most of us are our own harshest critic,
Yeah.
right? We are very difficult on ourselves when we fail. And I think that's part of the culture we live in today, right? We're not taught to uh, be compassionate with ourselves in a certain way. So we beat ourselves up when things go wrong. And if we want our team to learn from their mistakes, we have to lead by example. And if you do find yourself in a moment where you're just your own harshest critic, you're beating yourself up, you know what? Feel it, get with it. All right. That's, but give yourself some grace. Okay. Because feelings are going to come up when things go wrong. We know that, right? We're not robots. So, but it's important to honor those feelings and not bury them because they'll show up in different ways if you don't. So if you're feeling upset with yourself, sad, cry it out. If you're angry, go in the car and rage a little bit. Those kinds of things. We're animals at the end of the day, right? So let it out, and then just give yourself some grace.
Get back to climbing.
Get back to climbing.
Yeah. I have found that my peer group and perspective has brought me out of that stuff the fastest. It's very hard for myself to get out of that, but then I get challenged by them and I'm like, yeah. I think I literally could scream this from the rooftops. Like if you are going into something you're afraid of, get in a peer group because you're going to need them. You're going to do something stupid and you're going to need to be pulled out of it by other people because it's really hard to do it yourself.
Yeah. If you're in the right peer group, they're there to help lift you up, right? And challenge you, to your point.
100%.
Super important. That's actually one of the big things that I did in recent years as well, was I joined a peer group, men's group that really focuses on showing up at a higher frequency. And the only way we can do that is by bringing awareness to where you're low frequency, right? And the ego shows up, man. The ego shows up, and you gotta face it. So,
yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Our group has a lot of time for humor as well, and that's one of my core values is humor and potential. And so allowing me to, because I remember the first like couple months when I joined it, because it's scary, like you don't think you're going to bring anything to the group, but it's everyone's just figuring out life just like everybody, just like you are. So it was like, after seeing that and being able to be yourself, if you can find that, it is absolutely life-changing for sure. What's the biggest shift you notice when a sales leader finally lets go of control and embraces coaching?
I think one of the biggest shifts is they start working on more strategic initiatives than just, like I said, putting their fingers in all of the jars and all the pots. There's a level of trust and confidence in the team that really starts to shift and starts to develop, which is a beautiful thing. And honestly, my customers and my clients, they report an average of 12 to 26% revenue growth, right? So that's another big shift is you break through that ceiling that you might have been feeling stuck at. So that's a big one too.
Do you have a sales strategy you hang your hat on that you always go with?
I come from the school of solutions-based selling, right? So understanding customers' needs at a deep level, right? Yes, my program, for example, now it can apply to almost any entrepreneur, all right? But there's things that I offer in my program that probably aren't a good fit for you and where you are in your journey. So it's really important for me to understand what challenges you're faced with, what does your day look like, what are your habits and routines, and understand at a deep level, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Right. So it's all about helping people. And that's where I think a lot of sales organizations, this isn't uh, a Home Depot, right? You're not just going to go to a shelf and grab something, right? Especially if you're in a metal fab,
Yeah.
right?
And
You're
we do
all custom work, right? You need to understand, well, what do you need a solution for, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's going to be, is and will be the approach for a long time.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. You mentioned slightly there about the team changing when the leader changes. Do you have
Mm-hmm.
any eureka moments, or do you have any things that you were like, oh man, this team is crushing now because the leaders, they're looking different?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I worked with an organization last year where they had 9 top salespeople get promoted into regional management roles. Okay,
Wow.
they started managing sales teams, and these were people who were crushing it as salespeople, and then were thrown into management roles. But they had
Why do we always do that?
right, but they had no leadership experience. Okay,
Yes.
and so I worked one on one with this group for a 6-month period, and one of them, she moved up so quickly and stepped into her leadership that she's now, within a year, she's now a partner, a principal in the business. Yeah. Which that was a huge eureka
Yeah.
moment. Wow, she proved herself quickly and really embraced a lot of what she was learning.
I find that so fascinating that I think the hardest leap, and I've seen this mostly with our frontline supervisors when they go from the best welder fabricator into we go, wow, you're great at this. Why don't we just put you in charge of a department? Here, pat them on the butt, slide them in, and then nothing, right? So we've been taking a lot of steps into. I think that is the hardest leap for people, and a couple of reasons why. I think one, you go from being a doer to now relying on other people to do for you, and
Mm-hmm.
not at your speed or expertise. Two, I feel that you now have to tell your friends what to do. That's a really hard leap for people. And you have to hold them accountable, and you may not be able to go out with them or dinner or drinks or whatever you're used to. Like Monday comes around and you have to hold them to a KPI because that's what everyone's looking at for the group. And I think that shift is really hard for people. And I don't think we give people enough credit or let them know this is going to be really hard for about a year. I need you to stick with it. You're going to have people going, you're a kiss ass, blah, 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 all this other stuff. But that's like part of the process you have to go through. And as long as you're humble, respectful, and work on these pieces with people in mind, like you'll get there. Just, it's really hard. I don't think we tell people how hard it's going to be.
Yeah, we don't tell people how hard it's going to be. We get them all excited about it, but we don't set them up for success.
Yeah.
When you think about a new hire, right? What do? You give them onboarding process. You've got, they're going around, they're meeting all the people in the company. If you're really integrated and good, you've got a 30, 60, 90-day plan that's dialed
Yeah.
in, and you're going to set this new individual up for success. But when you promote somebody into a management role, where's that?
There's no onboarding.
There's no onboarding, right? How interesting is that? So, if for those of you listening, create an onboarding plan for your
That's brilliant.
mid-level managers, right?
Yeah.
And help them out. So.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. We do lots of one-on-ones with their management team and even above that, just to, hey, what did your week look like? What was the hardest? What was a win? What sucked? Like that kind of, just having that open communication, and you can see it turn, right? And then it's delegation becomes real. Like you talked about, I'm not carrying everything. I'm not the only one worried about the project. Like you're just sharing in that responsibility, and it's just, it sets people free. But man, is it a trudge the first couple of months for sure.
Yeah, I think what's important is, much like any individual contributor should have KPIs to measure their performance in a business, you want to be clear on what is the role, what are the responsibilities of you in your new promotion,
Yeah.
right? Lay it out, have it documented so that there's no confusion that this is what you're responsible for. And then over a certain time frame, have some milestones put in place, right? Some learning objectives for these newly promoted managers that you can, these one-on-ones are critical, that you can level set with them and make sure that they're hitting those milestones.
Yeah, that's really good. It's almost like a mini baselines throughout the process, and you made it or you missed it, and why, and how can we get you there? Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. We literally do it for everything else, but it's that step up is usually, you're right. It's like, hey, you're promoted. Yay. Here's all this responsibility.
Yeah, it happens. Even in the biggest Fortune 200 companies, same problem. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. If someone only has time to fix one leg of the stool, mindset, habits, or system, where do you tell them to start and why?
Your own personal well-being and your health.
Oh, yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah, you see that. To me, there's 3 pillars to success as a leader, and the first one is what I call energy. Okay, and that has to do with your own personal health and well-being. So if you have the right energy, if you're well fed, you're hydrated, you're rested, you're in good shape, your energy's, you're mentally clear, you're focused, well, how you show up is going to play a big part in your day. And people are going to feel that. So that's the one piece that you should always be prioritizing first.
It brings 2 things into my head. I just read a quote, and I think it may be in my top 5 now. It was a Buddhist quote, and it said, "A healthy man has 100 problems. A sick one has 1." That was just contextual of like, when you get sick, your to-do lists do not matter anymore. All of the noise goes away, and you're only worried about one thing. And I think that put into context of like all the things you just said. 2, we talk a lot at SWF about the baggage everyone has that brings to work, and it gets through the door. You don't stop at the door and leave all your luggage at the door before you walk in. I only know one employee or team member that I work with that can actually forget about his personal life. Only one that I've ever met in my entire career. Most people, it affects your efficiency. That's why, like, my sole purpose in life is happy people or efficient people. If I can make them as happy as possible, and that means home problems, we have free mental health for all of our employees and up to 7 other family members, so that it can, like, because it has to cascade. We have to throw the stone in the pond, and those ripples have to solve a lot of problems around them, because life is hard, right? And it's really complicated. And I think we get in this mindset of like, all your problems have to stop at the door before you walk, and that's not real. I'm horrible with efficiency when I'm upset or dealing with something at home, and I think most human beings are.
Absolutely. If you're going through a separation, or a family member passes away, or you find out you have cancer, like, all these things are going to affect you, right?
Yeah.
So you need to face and feel these things in a healthy way, so that you're at a frequency that's going to allow you to thrive in your business.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good answer for you. You coach people through real recovery. What's one burnout recovery trend that makes you cringe, and one small real action that actually helps?
One burnout recovery trend that makes me cringe. I think just general
ice bucket challenge. Ice baths.
I love ice baths, by the way. Yeah. No, I think the whole notion that you should eat gluten-free and not take any pharmaceuticals, and just go cold turkey and clean like that. I think that there's a healthy approach to everything, and everyone's different. So if you're burning out, right, and you're burning out and you've got heart problems because of it, well, you should be talking to a doctor, and you should get on medication for that stuff, and then go from there. But if you're overweight, all right, that's a different story. So, because burnout has a lot of physical effects, right? I knew a guy who he was running a distribution business out of Toronto, and he was sitting behind his desk. He was running multiple locations. He was an owner, And one day I walk into his office and I see him by the desk. He's got his leg up on the desk and his ankle is like this big,
Oh man.
just swollen up. And I'm like, dude, what happened, man? He's like, oh, congestive heart problems. I don't know. And I'm like, he's been overworking 12, 15 hours a day. And, for him to recover, he really needed to see a doctor, take a break from work, all kinds of things. But he said, no, I just got to diet better. Right. And he started fasting and did one of those water fasts, and none of that worked. Right. He was looking online for answers when really he should have saw his doctor. But, so I didn't really answer your question with one trend that makes me cringe, because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But it's all about just making sure that you're covering all your bases. Get checked every now and then.
Well, and I think there's a real problem with the whole hustle culture thing that's going on right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of playing into what you're saying. And I try to keep it real because I have a lot of hobbies. Like this is one of them, making YouTube videos. Like I have a bunch of shit I love doing. And so like keeping that balance of work and those hobbies plus family plus relax, like you have to be very intentional. And your time is the most important thing. So like it's okay to say no. I say no. I love saying no. It's one of my favorite words because I know that like I love doing a bunch of stuff and I don't want to do other stuff. So like you have to be very, very smart and think about how far do you want to push that limit. That is constantly on my mind of like before you go commit to something or start something new, because that's notorious for me, like what is that gonna chip away from that I actually like doing right now? And I don't think people take enough time to really play out their day. I'm a planner by nature. I plan vacations. I plan all of my entire life. So I think I have a really good hold on that, but that's hard for some people. And I think you keep chipping and chipping and chipping and chipping. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm consumed with all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people are pleasers, right? They don't want to let anybody down.
Good
They
point.
don't want to let, so that pleasing mentality, that can really harm you if you're not careful. So to your point, learn to say no, hold boundaries in a respectful way, because most people will actually learn to respect you more if you hold boundaries, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. That pleaser thing's really good. I didn't think about that.
Mm.
You've gone from burnout to builder. What's your next personal and professional challenge? Something that still stretches your mindset?
Yeah. So I'm taking Mindset Conquest to a level where I'm developing coaches right now. So it's not just me, right? The
Beautiful.
framework is proven. The people that we're helping are seeing really impactful results, and I want to take this thing further. So I've been stretching myself and finding like-minded people who are interested in helping others and leveraging the framework that I've proven to work. So I'm growing the team of coaches, and the goal is to have 10 by the end of the year. So
Nice.
we're on our way. And I'm also helping my clients with AI tools. So we've got a new tool coming out called Voice Notes, which is an agentic AI. It's voice based. That fits right into my client base who are using CRM systems and their team members aren't engaging with it. Where you actually have a conversation via phone call with an agent, a voice agent, that will fill out your CRM for you, ask you all the right questions, and make sure that all the data is being inputted, so that when you're between calls visiting clients, you can just place a phone call, have that conversation. It'll set up your meetings. It'll create emails for you, do the follow-ups, all those things. So stretching myself in that world, but making sure that it all fits in to the Mindset Conquest mission and vision. Yeah.
What does a perfect coach look like for you?
Perfect coach is somebody who's constantly growing themselves, right? That recognizes that they're not perfect, but has a lot of eagerness to make a difference in the world.
It's beautiful. There's a lot of those people out there.
Oh, there's tons. Yeah.
Right.
And it's funny, we talk about limitations earlier in the conversation, what's holding us back. And there was a moment where I caught myself really pulling back on finding coaches. Okay. And after some thought and being prompted by one of my mentors, it was, Chris, what's holding me back? What was holding me back from hiring coaches? And I had this belief that if I hire people, that they won't be able to do as good a job as I am. And
founder syndrome.
Founder syndrome. Even myself, my coach founders. Of course. It hit me, and I was like, oh my God. And my mentor said, he says, Chris, you're right. They probably won't do as good a job as you are. They could probably do a better job.
Boom.
Boom. Mic drop. And I was like, oh, I needed to hear that, man. Right. So
that's really good.
So, I'm going to find those that are going to do a better job than me. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Love that. Chris, those were all my questions. You crushed them. Almost right on the dot too at 58, almost 59 minutes. So I'm giving you the floor. What did we not cover? What do you want to tell everybody? Where can people find you? People are like, okay, this guy's got a bunch of stuff I want to learn about. Give them all your good stuff.
Yeah. So you can find me on all social media platforms at the Chris Atwell, the @ the Chris Atwell. And, I just want everybody out here to remember that the more you take care of yourself and the more that you're in tune with what your goals and objectives are, you can create a momentum, a flywheel of momentum that will allow you to do whatever it is that you want in your life, right? So take care of yourself, take care of your health and your well-being. Get really clear on your goals and objectives. Put them in a place where you can revisit those goals and objectives on a daily basis, multiple times. And then put some systems in place, some habits and routines to ensure that you're always focused on health and well-being and achieving those objectives. And it's limitless. You'll just keep growing. Like I said, that spiral staircase, you'll just keep climbing it. So,
okay. Yeah, that's amazing. And I think when we think about goals and objectives, it's something that's so far off in the future. But you said we're reading Atomic Habits right now in our book club at work. And I've realized that I've implemented these tiny tasks, right, that just keep chipping away at this goal that I want to do. And you just have to show up every day, one little piece at a time.
Keep showing up.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, Chris, thank you for spending an hour with me. This was, oh my God, I have so many nuggets in here. I'm going to be able to listen back through. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for enlightening all of us.
Well, thank you for having me, man. Keep up the good work. Keep spreading the good word. And maybe I'll jump on again in the near future.
Yeah. Awesome. Everybody, we will catch you on the next one.